And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take, how your family or business can benefit from current events. Most of all, thank you for joining me. Before we get into our intriguing content today, please join me in welcoming our featured guest and repeat offender. Sara Nash is in the house. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Glad to have you with us. Foundation Business Financing is the name of her company. We're going to chat business finance today along with all the other great topics we have in mind for you. And let me remind you, if you ever have any more home or finance related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you. And you can reach out to me directly at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are no operators standing by. I am it. While I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan or plan to save you money, I personally work with you. Even if you don't have any needs today, save this number in your phone for future reference, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And yes, of course, we are celebrating today. Now, not that we're back working after having an extended or a little bit of extra time off, but it's National Cheese Ball Day today. What the heck is a cheese ball? I don't know. It looks pretty good, and having beaten anorexia, I might have to try that, but we will see what happens there, moving right along. Checking the markets, they're actually open this time. Last week when I mentioned that to you on Friday, yeah, they weren't open, but right now the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 107 points as we're speaking. Oil down 33 cents per barrel, and of course we know what that means in the state of confusion. We're over $3 a gallon now for gasoline right here in the state of confusion. $2.40.7 is the national price. We haven't even got to the latest round of tax hikes from Governor Moonbeam, but we'll get to enjoy that soon enough. 10-year U.S. Treasury, that's pretty much flat. 2.233 is the yield on the 10-year Treasury right now. So we're not seeing a whole lot of change there, not seeing a whole lot of change in the mortgage market interest rates right now. We'll keep an eye on all of those for you as well. One more day, and it's pretty odd to be saying this on the 17th of April, but taxes are not due until tomorrow. So we do have a little bit of a delay there. Yeah, a little bit. Well, wait a little bit. So, but I noticed, I don't know if you were out over the weekend, I saw one lunatic over there in the city of Orange with a Trump release your taxes sign, and I had to stop and say to the guy, do you really care? And after looking at the guy, my guess is that even if he did see Trump's taxes, he probably wouldn't understand what they said anyway. Just a thought right there. I mean, who cares at this point? I mean, I'm more interested, I don't know about you, but my interest level is really in my taxes. Are they going to go down? I couldn't care less about his. Yeah, I know he paid $30 million in taxes. To be perfectly honest with you, I'd love the opportunity to pay or to owe $30 million in taxes. That just means that I've made a lot of money. A lot of people say, well, I want to minimize my taxes. Well, I agree. Minimizing taxes is good. But if you did everything you could, if you're paying $30 million in taxes, that means you can afford a lot of tax attorneys, you can afford a lot of CPAs, and you are minimizing them to taking advantage of everything you possibly can. Just a thought right there. So here's the idea when you think about that. He pays more than I do. I want to pay what he pays. And the end of the story is I don't care about his tax return. Now, let's go to the next step. We've got to worry about our own taxes. And tax day is tomorrow. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but that is the deadline. And it's amazing how many people have no clue about taxes when you think about it. And that's why I said that he probably, this guy that I saw on the street, now this was the big tax protest for the city of Orange. There was one person there. I wonder who's paying for all these other protests around the country. Just a quick question that my simple mind, I think of some of these things. But let's think about this one. Being that people want, supposedly, they want Trump to release his taxes. So let's think about the truth of this issue. 56% of the people do not know what a W-4 form is. Think about that one. So the most basic of tax forms, they have no idea what it, I'm sorry, it was 57% of taxpayers don't know what a W-4 form is. 59% don't know that April 18th is the day that their taxes are due this year. 58% of taxpayers incorrectly believe that getting a tax extension means they can delay the due date of their tax payment. So we're over 50% on all of these things that people have no clue about. And they want to see a tax return. Now, I've seen some tax returns of multimillionaires. I must admit I've not seen any billionaire tax returns. But I have seen multi-millionaire tax returns, and I just looked at one recently. It was 900 pages long. 900 pages long. Do you think most people understand what the heck is in there? And do they really care? So, when is the deadline for putting money into your IRA for 2016? Or your SEP for 2016? Yeah, most people got this answer wrong too. Is the money you put in a Roth IRA pre-tax or post-tax? 42% got the answer right. 42%. Can married couples file taxes separately? Well, 90% got that answer right. When can you adjust your withholdings and exemptions on your W-4 with your employer? 67% got that one right. A 529 plan is, that one there, over 50% got that one wrong. What is a flexible spending account? Over 50% got that one wrong. If you foster a pet from a nonprofit charitable organization, can you claim a tax deduction? Over 50% got that one wrong. People don't understand taxes, yet they make this big deal out of taxes. I'm just saying that who gives a hoot if you don't even understand your taxes, how are you going to understand somebody else's? Moving right along, I better get off my tax soapbox even though tomorrow is tax day. Let's think about this. We got a problem here in Southern California. I started reporting a little bit about this last week just because I was at the event that the Anaheim Hills Community Council event, talking about homeless advocates. And I want to share some information with you, and it's a bit disturbing because one of the big controversies or questions at this event, and I found it fascinating, was one person, there's a motorhome parked in a Big Lots center down the end of the street. And it's been there for weeks and weeks, and people are wondering, why don't the police do something about it? And another citizen got up and said, well, if it's not bothering you, who cares? Well, here's the issue, or here's the answer to those questions, because when you go to some of these events, unfortunately, when you have a community town hall, they have to be politically correct. You know on Ron Siegel Radio, there's no such thing as politically correct. So here's the real answers as to what the problem is. Do you know that they're renting out the rooms or the bed in that facility by the hour? What do you think what do you think the purpose of that is? Do you know that the 4 motorhomes that were parked down on the other side of Anaheim, one behind the other, that's where they caught the individual that was murdering the prostitutes in the city of Anaheim? Now do you really think that it's who are they hurting when you ask that question about some of these motorhomes, what they're doing when they're not in a legitimate motorhome park where they can monitor and it's where they belong? Now if you want to make every shopping center parking lot into RV parking, well, go create a city ordinance for it. That might be what you want to do. I'm just suggesting it's probably not what you're going to want at the end of the day to have something along those lines being there. Think about some of the other issues that go along. And I know that they can't say these things from a politically correct standpoint. And I think all of us want to solve homelessness. Now there is an issue. There are some people that want to be homeless. That's the way that they want to live their life. Let them enjoy and be well. There are some individuals that have mental problems. We need to solve that. We had Fairview. They're going to make that into something else now. Norwalk State Mental Hospital, they don't do things there either. Think about some of these issues. That's what we're all about. We want to help people. Frank, I'm going to take your message down, not because I have any problem with it. This is just not an advertising site, so I appreciate you being on with us, but that's not what we're here for. Rich, good to see you there. Armando, good to see you there as well. A lot of folks checking in on the Facebook page. You are listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. When we come back, financing your small business, that's what we're going to chat about. Thinking of selling, now is the time to act. What is a virtual credit card? Talk about all this and more. You are listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. You can reach us anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Connect with us, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio, on Twitter, @Ron Siegel, and if you miss any part of our broadcast, shame on you. But the replay is available, Ron Siegel 1, Ron Siegel the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned, we'll be back in just a few. We're clear.
Coolio. I was so nervous the first time. I'm a little nervous still, but not very.
You don't know Frank Alio, do you?
No.
Okay. His post is gone.
What did he put? He posted
Start a
like
business. Start a business. Grow a business. Could use $20,000 to $150,000 in as little as 10 days. Call me with his phone number.
That's so tacky.
I offer unsecured business lines of credit. Put another one on there.
That's honestly, I think that's so tacky.
Yeah.
Like I'll comment like from my personal or from the business, like my business on stuff that's relevant or has like the same audience, but I would never put something like that. It's
And your
all
phone
like,
number?
yeah, no, it's like, oh, great observation, I agree, or like, oh, you know what I've seen is this, like educational or comment or like banter or something. You don't put an ad like that. That's so cheesy. Especially when you have like their competitor on your, and it's just, that's so cheesy.
Well, because I put the headline as what kind of financing is available for startup businesses.
And they probably just searched it. It's probably some random person that put a search in Facebook. Your thing popped up, and they were like, "Oh, I'm gonna take advantage of that."
Could be. I mean, I never know what's.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? People are so funny.
Yeah, they tend to do that stuff.
Yeah.
It's been interesting since I had a guy tell me that I should really look into putting this stuff on. You know, going Facebook Live. And the interaction that we can now have that we couldn't do before.
Oh yeah, it's crazy, it's wild.
Yeah.
I have friends even that'll do like, they're like, oh, they'll do Facebook Live and be like, I'm buying a dress for an event and I want some help picking out which dress should I, and I'm like, and it's, I mean, yeah, people can like interact like real time and say, oh, that looks great, oh no, don't wear that one, whatever, but it's just kind of like, who'd have thunk it? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, it's just kind of funny. Just
yeah,
the use of it.
Well, I'm battling with my wife right now because I'm going to probably go buy a drone.
Oh, yeah.
Just to go to different events. And just brings out more conversation.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, it's such a different perspective. And then everyone always, you know, oh, I thought about buying one of those. Do you like it? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go to open houses and just put where we're at.
Yeah. She's not fond of that idea?
She gets kind of tired of the lifestyle of so much being so public.
Being on, yeah, like you're on stage all the time.
And I have friends that we'll go out with, and I mean, I have my page now set up where nothing goes on there unless I approve it.
Good.
So they'll look at me and they'll say, why do you do that? And I say,
because you don't know what some people are going to end up.
Stalkers and everything else.
Well, that's the same reason I use a Google Voice number.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That's my message, and as your consumer advocate, I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio, or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. In the real-time real estate segment today, being brought to you by the area trusted real estate professionals of Ron Siegel Radio, text NEST, N-E-S-T, to 79564. Find your dream home before somebody else does. Put in your parameters and come up with all the different options that you have there. Every time a new property goes on sale in your parameters, you're going to get a text message. Pretty simple. Thinking of selling your house? Now is the time to act. If you thought about selling your house this year, now may be the time to do it. The inventory of homes for sale is well below historic norms and buyer demand is skyrocketing. We were still in high school when we learned the concept of supply and demand. I don't know if they teach that anymore in high school, but they should be. The best time to sell something is when supply of that item is low and demand for that item is high. That defines today's real estate market. Jonathan Smoke, chief economist at Realtor.com, revealed in a recent article that the biggest challenge to buyers this spring will be simply finding a home to buy and getting it successfully under contract. That's because the supply of homes for sale is at an all-time low, and yet demand is strong and getting stronger. Smoke went on to say, we started the year with the lowest inventory of homes available for sale that we've ever seen on Realtor.com. While we did see inventory grow, and I'm quoting him, 2% in February, that inventory was down 11% year over year. 11%. In this type of market, a seller may hold a major negotiating advantage when it comes to price and other aspects of the real estate transaction, including the inspection, appraisal, and financing contingencies. Bottom line, as a potential seller, you're in the driver's seat right now, and it might be a great time to hit the gas. Give me a call if you want to meet a great real estate agent in your neighborhood. I will put you in touch with one. We know them everywhere within the sound of our voice. That is the Real-Time Real Estate segment, again brought to you by the area trusted real estate professionals of Ron Siegel Radio. Text NEST, N-E-S-T, to 79564. I've shared with you many times that I've been involved in many businesses in my career, and now for the last 7 years doing radio, I get to chat with lots of business owners, lots of business people, lots of individuals. You know, we bring 1 or 2 people on per radio show. We're on every day. And generally we'll speak to about 10 people for every one that we bring on to radio. So you get to learn a lot about business. And one of the biggest problems that many business people have is quite simply financing. So Sara Nash is here to answer all the questions that you have. Now, what I should mention that if you've got some questions for Sara, go ahead and put them right there into the chat box. If you go to Ron Siegel on Facebook, we are broadcasting live, Facebook Live right there. We're not going to have any of the advertising. I've already taken some of those down. That's not what we're here for, but we want to get you some great information. We've talked about alternative financing on the real estate side, where we've got individuals who will do loans at a higher interest rate for real estate, investment real estate. But what about for your business? Can you do them for business? So, good morning, Sara.
Good morning, Ron.
Glad to have you with us. So, are there some options for us?
There are, yeah, and to be totally frank, I come from a very traditional lending background. I was with a large corporate financial institution my entire career until I started this business. And to be quite honest, traditional financing can be difficult to obtain, especially if you're a startup. You know, there are other options though, which is great for people to hear. And unfortunately, a lot of times that alternative lending, business lending space gets a really bad reputation because there are some, shall I say, shady characters out there in the lending world, in all facets. I'm sure you've run into them too, and business lending is no exception to that. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a ton of regulations at this time, and people are taking advantage of that, so it gets a poor reputation. But there are other options out there. Subprime lending with really high rates, yes, it's popular, yes, it exists. And if you've got very blemished credit, you know, FICO as low as 500, or you need the money very quickly, as little as 48 hours, that might be the right fit. But for most businesses, it's frankly, it's not.
So there's options other than subprime?
Yes, so there are alternative lending options based on your good personal credit, based on assets of the business, or your personal assets. You've got to structure it appropriately, of course. If you're using a personal asset to borrow against and you're using that money for the business, you borrow it under your personal, you lend it to the business as a loan from the shareholder, so you're in full compliance. I've got actually a lot of information, videos and things of that nature that just gives some really specific information on how to structure that and the best way to do it. Right on my website.
You gotta slow down for me, because I'm
Sorry,
a simple
sorry.
guy. I'm just so simple.
I have so much knowledge up here just bursting out.
I know, but I'm simple, and I gotta try and absorb some of this stuff. So, I can borrow it I borrow it personal, and then I lend it to the company.
Yes, sir.
The company pays me. So then that looks like there's some tax benefits there too.
There are some potential tax benefits, yeah, absolutely. And it's a really great way to make sure that you're separating your business and personal assets and credit and expenses, because of course you want to be in compliance with the IRS.
Sure.
Good old Uncle
Now
Sam.
I see a lot of the credit repair guys come on talking about business credit and getting business credit cards. Is that type of thing that you're talking about?
That's one of the options, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's fairly popular doing business credit cards. It's usually higher limits and great promos and things like that, promotional rates. But there are, there's other credit lines that are credit-based options for businesses. Obviously, even things like assets that folks don't even realize they can borrow against, like a securities portfolio or a retirement account. You can use that as collateral. A securities portfolio like stocks, bonds, you can borrow against that for as low as 2%, right under the business.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what do you do, just hypothecate the stock or something?
Hypothecate. This is a new word.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
not familiar.
I'll bring my.
I'm a simple girl. You got to bring it down a little bit.
When I was at Merrill Lynch, we used to do that with different loans. We would do it with real estate. When you start looking at something that's that inexpensive an interest rate, you start saying, okay, well, I've got my book of my portfolio over here. I basically hypothecating giving it, assigning it, so I can't sell it and liquidate it without the investor having some knowledge of that.
So yes, you do have to let the folks that are essentially the
investors there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, lien holders.
Lien holder. They do have to be aware of it, but it does not restrict. You simply inform them that you're going to sell or trade or whatever, but you don't give up ownership of the stock. You don't transfer title. You can still buy and sell just as normal as long as you maintain the required minimums. Yeah.
So and you say 2%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about as cheap as it gets, right?
It is, yeah. Even a non-traditional SBA loans. There are private banks now doing strictly SBA loans. Of course, they've got to fall in the SBA guidelines, minimum of 2 years in business, and some specific criteria. But the cool thing is, because these are private banks, the borrower just needs to fit in the realm of the SBA guidelines, not with these really harsh, specific, rigid guidelines of some of these big banks out there. And like I said, that was my background. I know what those guidelines are, and traditional banks oftentimes put very strict guidelines beyond that of the SBA, and those SBA loans can be 6.5%. Those are pretty inexpensive too, and oftentimes no collateral is needed if you've got the good credit and the good cash flow.
So do you help bridge that? I mean, I know that you're doing some of the startup and some of the alternative.
Yep.
But because of your background, do you help find people the more traditional down the road, or help them counsel them to a traditional world?
Absolutely. And to be frank, some folks are not interested in that. They don't want to work with a public bank. They prefer to work with a private investor, a private bank, something like that. But sometimes it's folks that are nearly bankable, and they want to get to the point that they are bankable, and we'll help them get there. Doing things like reestablishing personal credit, establishing corporate credit so they can go and borrow with their business without even a personal guarantee. Obviously, given my background and just the nature of the business, I have a lot of banking relationships. So we'll get folks, oftentimes, we'll get them in something that's, maybe a little more expensive or a little, that non-traditional financing, and get them to the point that they can obtain that traditional financing. They can go to the bank on the corner, the large financial institution, and work with the banker there, once they've established that.
And I would suggest that in some instances, outsourcing that might even be a better way to go for people. Because I know when I used to do it, and I had a 7-figure line of credit at one time with the major banks, it took a lot of my focus away from the business to deal with the financing of the business.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, a business owner, you're great at running your business. You're great at, designing websites or whatever it is that your business may be, or running a radio show or doing mortgages, but you don't necessarily know the lending industry and
Right.
specifically business lending, and it doesn't behoove you to learn that and take your time and energy and make sure that you're finding the best deal and you're finding the right lender that fits your specific needs, because there's so many out there and it's difficult to navigate the waters sometimes, or it just might not be a good use of your time.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's the one thing that a lot of people, especially when you get into business, they forget, is that their topic or their business is what they were passionate about.
Right.
And then they've got all these other things, and Larry Broughton's been on with us many, many times, and he says, outsource your weaknesses.
Absolutely.
Right? So you focus on whatever it is, selling real estate, yet you might have a person that is your business manager for doing all your marketing and media buys and things like that, so you can be out there focusing on what you really like. We're going to talk more with Sara Nash when we come back. You are listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. We'll also chat a little bit about what is a virtual credit card. Got a lot to chat about still today. You can reach us anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Connect with us, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. On Twitter, @Ron Siegel. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few. Work, Claire. Nice.
Thanks for interrupting. I talk really fast and I get ahead of myself and I'm like, okay, Sarah,
Slow, Sarah. You got so much in there.
Yeah. Well, I'm a high energy person anyway, and then I've got like all this knowledge, and I'm like, I just wrote it all down.
Yeah. And the average individual's like, whoa.
Yeah. Wait. Back it up. Just can I hit pause?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Pause, rewind.
Yeah, right? Replay that. I do videos. We do a lot of videos, like just totally informational, educational about some of the stuff that I was talking about, and we put it on our website. So we've got just an educational, and it's not me trying to sell or me saying come and do this with us. It's just strictly information because people need that, and it's beyond their realm of knowledge in most cases. But my videographer is like, okay, I know that you're excited about this, but you gotta talk slower. Like you gotta, because I do like a kind of like a storyline type of, so I know like which topics I want to cover in what order on like a specific video. But then I get so excited because I do it off script. I get so excited I just talk, and he's like, okay, you gotta slow down.
Breathe.
We gotta be able to catch up with you.
Breathe, Sarah.
Yeah, exactly. Or he's like, okay, this 5-minute video just turned into 15.
Yeah, the challenge there is because of it being video. When it's radio, that becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because when I first started doing my radio spots to promote the radio show, they said, okay, we want you to go through and just go through your script 3 times.
Okay.
Don't stop if you make a mistake, just continue, but do it 3 times. Okay. And I said, okay, so I did it. And they'd cut and splice it because they can go down to 1/100th of a second.
Wow.
So they can make
fast.
it, yeah. So they didn't care, but with as fast as you talk, you can go to like half speed.
Yeah.
But that would look pretty foolish in the video.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Well, with video too, if you're doing anything less than just like, anything less than 5 or 7 minutes, if you cut it, it looks really unprofessional. And people start to wonder, do you really know what you're talking about? If you have to cut, if you're doing like a 3 or 5 minute video and you have to cut it, then it's kind of like, okay, like what's the disconnect here or whatever.
Yeah, that's interesting because we don't even do them that long. My videos I do for real estate, usually I try to 2 to 3 minutes, 4 minutes at the most.
So I usually do like a 2 or so minute either like teaser or here's the problem, and then I'll say for the extended version of this or to get the full solution for this problem, check out our extended video.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. Okay, easy for me to say. That's my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Last minute tips you need to know at tax time is the subject of today's Word on Wealth segment, being brought to you by Gold Star Mortgage. When you're ready for that next mortgage, Gold Star has every product you could need. Talk about the USDA loan, the VA loan, FHA loan, jumbo loans, the basic conformings, conventionals, they've got those too. Jumbo loans up to $5 million, asset depletion loans, cross collateral, all of them, reverse mortgages, you name it. So what are some last minute tax tips you need to know? Number one, not filing a return at all is never the right answer. Just think about that. Yeah, don't do that one. It's easy to get some extra time to file. All you need to do is file for that extension. If you have a tax professional, ask them. There are methods of becoming what they call penalty proof, where you can make sure that you pay enough, even if you're not exactly sure of how much your tax liability is. And your tax liability is due on the 18th. So don't take that wrong. But you also want to make sure, if you don't know exactly what the liability is, make sure you get to the point of being what they call penalty proof, which is where you've paid. There are a couple criteria. Talk to a tax professional. I don't want to give out the wrong information there. But it is easy to get extra time. There's help available for many taxpayers. A lot of online services, which I'm not a big fan of. There are a lot of tax providers out there, professionals, that it's not going to cost you anything at the end when you get great advice. It should not cost you anything. And yes, you have to pay something, but you're going to get more in return. That's a return on your investment. Take advantage of last-minute tax savings opportunities. And you know I'm not a fan of the IRA and the 401k. Those are ruses to take your money. But if you didn't plan in advance, now is the time that you might want to use that IRA or the SEP, something along those lines. Filing electronically has some big advantages. There are some challenges with it. I'm sure if you have issues, my tax person had some issues with mine. After 20-some years of marriage, I found out that even though Social Security had my wife's name changed, the IRS didn't. So until we figured that out, we had a challenge. If we would have waited till 11:40 on tax date, 11:40 p.m., to file electronically, it could have caused a bit of a problem. Think about that. There are a lot of issues there. That is the Word on Wealth segment. Again, brought to you by our friends at Gold Star Mortgage. When you're ready for that mortgage, give me a call. 800-306-1990. I will put you in touch with the right people at Gold Star. And speaking of the right people, if you are looking at business financing, maybe you haven't even thought about business financing, and you're awake all night because you can't figure out how to get payroll for next week. There's a lot of people that have never figured out how to sign the front of a payroll check. It's just the way it is. And it does pose a bit of a stress on small business owners. So we're talking this morning to Sara Nash, Foundation Business Financing, because you've seen how to sign the front of a payroll check.
A time or two.
A time or two. So when I was in business, in the import-export business many years ago, what I found for me that was the easiest thing is I always had a book ready for financial people coming in. And it always had our last 3 years of tax returns, personal and business, and we had an accounts receivable report and an accounts payable report and a few months worth of bank statements. It was literally a bound book.
Sure.
Is that the same type of thing you need when you're talking about this kind of financing?
It depends. It depends on the type of financing that you're seeking. It depends on how quick your time frame is. Generally, yes. If you're going for like an SBA loan, term loan, something of that nature, then yes. But some programs, if you need the money really quickly, you are going to pay a premium for needing money very quickly. But sometimes it's really minimal documentation that's needed. So the best answer I have is it really depends on what the individual's need is. And that's something that differentiates really our company, Foundation Financing, is we get to understand the business first. The first thing we ask for isn't give me your bank statements, your financials. The first thing we ask for is, hey, let's have a conversation. Let me understand what your business is, what phase it is, what are the needs, what are your long-term goals, and let's find the right match for those with your financing options, and then we take it from there.
So you guys are kind of like the small business version of Shark Tank.
A little bit, yeah. I've read some numbers on Shark Tank though, and it's a bit disheartening. Investing in general is is one of those things that people have a huge misconception about. Business owners and entrepreneurs have a huge misconception about, and I've read some articles and statistics on Shark Tank, and it's really no exception to that. And I work with a number of angel investors, venture capitalists, investment bankers, and the number I hear over and over again is that out of every 1,000 pitches they hear from an entrepreneur or business owner looking for investors, out of every 1,000 pitches, 15 of those will actually obtain some sort of investment capital. It may not even be what they're seeking, or it may be for a larger percentage. That's 1.5% that actually get that investor capital. So you're an entrepreneur, you're in love with your idea, and
you should be.
And you should be, absolutely. It should be your passion. It should be what keeps you up at night and what gets you out of bed in the morning. But that said, not everyone is. You know, ideas are a dime a dozen, and it's tough to get to that point. And if you're a pre-revenue, then, you know, chances are...
What does pre-revenue mean?
Meaning you're not actually making money as a business
so you're
yet.
still at the idea
revenues.
stage.
Yeah. And again, your idea is great, I'm sure, but you've got to prove that other people think it is too.
That's an interesting concept because, you know, I enjoy watching Shark Tank. It's entertainment.
Yes.
Right? But
Sure.
but we make it seem some sort of like the reality real estate shows.
Sure.
Right? On Shark Tank, you see 4 different investments come on there, or 4 different options come on there, 5 in a show. Mm-hmm. But the producers might have looked at 5,000 to find those 5.
Yes. And honestly, just because an investor, whether it's on Shark Tank or just in real life, says, I'm really interested, I want to invest, until you have signed the paperwork and the money is in the bank, that is not a guarantee. And things, you know, things happen.
So do you have some fun businesses you can tell us about?
Some fun businesses.
Put you on this. Well, we'll save that to the next segment, so I'll give you a chance
I gotta think about that for a minute and not divulge too much.
Well, we never want to divulge too much, but maybe it'll help them do a little extra business.
Yeah.
But startup capital, I mean, that's a big issue because a lot of people wonder, what is, you know, you hear about borrowing from your 401k IRA. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Probably not the best thing.
Depends on the person too, yeah.
You know, running up your credit card bills, going and borrowing from grandma and grandpa. Mm-hmm. What are some of the, are there legitimate business sources for startup capital?
There are. There are actually some investors out there that are private investors, as well as private banks that instead of giving money in exchange for equity, they'll actually lend money. And the statistics of them actually lending money versus that 1.5% is much higher. So if you're pre-revenue, if you're a startup company, leveraging your good personal credit of yourself or one of the other owners of the business, or an asset, are great options for startup. There are business-specific lines of credit and credit cards out there. We always recommend working with an expert to make sure that you're getting the best rates, you're not getting taken advantage of, you're taking advantage of those promotional rates that can be offered specifically for businesses. Or borrowing against an asset, even things like if you're an early phase company and you've got a purchase order, for example, you've got a company that wants to purchase from you, it takes a lot of capital up front to fulfill that purchase order. So you can actually leverage that purchase order to borrow money, fulfill the purchase order, and then pay it back once the purchase order is fulfilled. We work with folks that do, you know, selling on Amazon and Costco and things like that are in exactly that boat. And I actually, little additional information, I do have, I love to give information to people. I'm not.
We've never noticed that you have a lot to share. Back up 1 second, because before we go, you know, we'll be on that. What is a range of price that it would cost me to borrow money for startup money? You know, is it going to be 50 to 70% or 5 to 10%? Is there a range that you can talk about?
That's a great question. Yeah, like I said, well, with the promotional rates, those are 0%, just like promos usually are. But it can be as little as 2% if it's like an asset-backed loan, or even the SBA does startup. Again, it's much easier to work with a private bank on the SBA side. But those can be, you know, 6.5% even for startups, or you know, some of them can be really expensive. It all depends on the risk profile of the borrower, but it can be super affordable or it can be expensive.
Well, and one of the things I'm sure that you would agree with is that because you've got a finance background, the number whatever the cost is of the money is just another line that needs to be put onto the expense side.
Absolutely.
Right? So you just figure that in. If it's going to cost you 3% for raw materials and 1% for finance, well, you just figure, you go, okay, now you got 4% and keep adding all the numbers in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course, you've got to think of what is my cost of capital, what is the return on my investment, and absolutely strict budgets, making sure you truly understand the cost of the capital, and borrowing when you're really ready for it, versus just kind of saying, oh, well, it'd be great to have some extra money, and then you borrow and you're like, wait, what the heck do I do with it now?
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, one of the things I've seen on some of the different scenarios that people have brought me is a concept where you borrow $1,000 or $5,000 and you have to pay back $8,000, and they don't want to tell you what the interest rate is. I want to talk to Sarah about that a little bit. We're going to chat about that one when we come back. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. We're going to also talk about what is a virtual credit card. I wonder if I can make a virtual payment. I wonder if that's what that means. We'll talk about that as well. You can reach us anytime. Off-air number 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Connect with us, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio, on Twitter @Ron Siegel. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few. We are clear.
All right.
Nice. Good stuff.
Thanks.
You got so much information.
And I got to plug my website, though.
We will, and then we'll have you put it on if you'll put it on the show Facebook page.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It'll actually has much better information there. Although
Yeah,
you guys are one of the few that I heard, Randy told me, he said he had some client calling when you were on last time while you were on air.
Oh, when I was on air? Really? I didn't realize when I was on air. That's cool, though.
Yeah, it's pretty odd.
I got to leave, but I didn't know.
Yeah, he said, because I saw him at Bob's dinner like the next week or 2 weeks later or something
okay.
like that. He said, yeah, one of the people that was listening to you guys called me, and I guess they did something with them. Okay, cool. Which is odd.
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time that.
Well, if someone's like driving or whatever, they're not going to be writing down
Right.
the website or, yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's all about consistency and repetition.
Yeah, for sure.
I told my reverse mortgage guy that. And I've told my credit repair guy that too, and he didn't listen to me. And the week after he stopped working with us, got like 8 people called. Idiot.
Yeah.
Especially because I tell them all right up front. But my reverse mortgage guy said, if we do one transaction in 6 months, you're going to be very, very happy. And like in the 5th month, we did 4.
Wow.
And he's, what did he put out there today? I wonder what she's up to. My wife. I can already tell what you're thinking about today, and she's got some screwy emoji. I don't know what it means. Great show, excellent information. She usually sends me notes and says, you're not letting your guests talk enough.
This time she's going to say, your guest isn't letting you talk enough.
No, she never said that. She's funny. No more loans, no more lines of credit. My last one was $6 million. And I did it with Bank of the West, I think it was.
Okay.
So, but I used to have that book ready, and anybody that came in, I'd show it to them.
Yeah.
And I'd just have them all negotiating against each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. You got to be careful that you don't end up getting your credit dinged a bajillion times. I helped a gentleman one time that had been shopping around. He had 42 inquiries on his credit. Yeah.
I never gave them our personal credit stuff.
Yeah, see, that's smart.
Later on, because they'd ask me about it, I said, well, I'll give it to you later if you have something worthwhile.
Right, but let's,
Here we go.
yeah. Let's make sure first.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions, as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That's my message, and as your consumer advocate, I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Your Credit Matters segment today being brought to you by creditsanitizer.com. You have a credit report. It is wrong. They all are wrong. I've never seen one in as many decades that I've been looking at credit reports, and I've yet to see one that's completely accurate. There's always an error. I know 60 Minutes says there's 20% of the time. I'd like to see the other 80 that don't have errors on the reports, because I've been looking at these things a long time. They've all got them. creditsanitizer.com has the solution for you. What is a virtual credit card? That is our subject today. Well, it's pretty simple. No, you don't get to make a virtual payment. That doesn't work that way. But a virtual credit card is basically a setup that credit card companies understand now that people are buying a lot of goods and services online. When they're buying goods and services online, you obviously have to put your credit card information into the online provider, their service. And there are crooks out there that are looking to hack you. So now what the credit card companies have come out with is a virtual credit card. It's off of your same exact credit card account number, but they've come out with a virtual number. So you go on the credit card, on your credit card company, on their website, sign into your account, request a virtual card number. It's a very short-term usage. You make your purchase with that virtual number. It goes into your regular account. You make your payments just like your regular account, but it doesn't compromise that piece of plastic that you've got in your pocket or purse. Think about it. If your credit card company doesn't have that service, well, there are others out there that do. You might just need to check on it. Give me a call at 800-306-1990. I can put you in touch with some of those companies. That is the Your Credit Matters segment. Again, brought to you by creditsanitizer.com. Chatting this morning with Sara Nash, Foundation Business Financing. Before the break, I was chatting about some of these services that you hear about, and they don't want to tell you about the interest that they charge, because they say, well, you're going to borrow $2,500, you're going to pay back $4,000 if you do it within 6 months. And if you do the math, if you're a mathematician, that'll tell you that the interest rate is extremely high. I thought there were laws against that, Sarah.
Well, it's very interesting. I actually have a video and a blog on this topic on my website at foundationfinancing.com. There's an educational section. I talk about it there. Those are actually not...
Foundationfinancing.com.
Yes, foundationfinancing.com.
So we're going to have to put a link to that right there on our Facebook page and on the YouTube when it comes up.
I will be happy to do that.
Right, and one of the big things I love chatting with Sarah about here during the break, so those of you watching us on RonSiegelRadio.tv or on Facebook Live, is Sarah, you'll see that we talk. You can't hear us talking other than when we move our hands. But Sarah's great at education, and that's one of the reasons why I like bringing guests. Certain guests come on the show and others that want to come on don't, is because we're not looking to sell you anything. This is not meant to be an infomercial, and the individual that posted something earlier today on our Facebook page, I apologize to those that saw it, but it's already been removed, because that's not what we're here for. It's not an infomercial. But go ahead with what you're saying about the information on that.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you saying that, because definitely I'm here to educate. Those are actually not loans. They are, they're called MCAs, or merchant cash advances, and that's just what they are. They're cash advances, but they can't call them a loan legally, because you're exactly right. The interest rates being charged on those, that they also don't call an interest rate, they call it a factor rate on a cash advance, because if they called it a loan and they called it an interest rate, it would be illegal. It's extremely high cost of capital. So yeah, they're not a right fit for most businesses, and you're right, it's not very straight. A lot of the verbiage and the contracts even themselves aren't super straightforward, and can be very confusing and overwhelming, unfortunately.
So their big advertising ploy that they use is that they can get it done quickly.
Yes, 48 hours in many cases.
Are there better sources or solutions for that?
For money that quickly, that's really going to be your go-to resource. And I have done them. It is something that our company offers. I've done them for folks, but really it's the right fit in a situation, not to, oh my gosh, I can't make payroll. You're going to be paying an exorbitant rate just to keep yourself afloat. And really at that point, you need to look at other options. But if you have, as a business, a really great investment opportunity. For example, you've got your perfect example. This is someone that I actually I assisted at one point a few months ago. It was a gentleman that resold a particular product, and he could get a really deep discount, but he needed to make the purchase quickly. So his resale would be, his profit margins would be huge, far higher than the cost of the capital, and he could flip it really quickly, so he could pay the money back really quickly. So he did, but he needed the money in 48 hours. So he got the money 48 hours, paid a lot for it, but he made like a 300% return, which makes it. So
you got to slow that one down for me, because I love that concept. So just throw an easy number at. So
Sure.
If you had, let's say, $1,000 purchase, and they might have been willing to give him a $300 discount,
right?
But he had to pay $100 for the money.
Perfect example, right?
Okay, so he's ending up coming out net ahead.
Correct.
But the bottom line is that somebody would say, okay, well, maybe for 30 days, 10%, $100 cost for $1,000 is 10% interest. Right. For 30 days.
For 30 days, right?
That's a lot of money, but who cares? I mean, I'll trade $100 bills for $300 bills all day long.
Exactly. That's a great way to break it down.
So, and I like to be simple, Sarah. I'm just a simple guy. I don't understand all this stuff.
And you get it. You got it.
Right. So it's not a matter of how much it costs. It's how much you make that's really the important part.
Absolutely, and that's why we get to know. I mean, me personally, I own the business. I don't want to be taken advantage of as a business owner. And if I go to borrow money or get a website done or sign up for new merchant processing for credit cards, whatever it may be, I want to make sure that that individual with whom I'm working understands what specifically I need.
Sure. And most of the time I've talked to some community bankers around, and I have a sense that you're going to fit into this same scenario. Is that somebody like yourself who's helping to finance a company, you need to understand the business, and can actually become like part of the board of advisors for the company, saying, do you really want to do that, or have you thought about X? Because you get to talk to a lot of different businesses.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you're able to see, company X. I can't tell you what company X's name is, but they tried this and it didn't work.
Right. Yes, and we do. I mean, definitely learning from experiences of other businesses and what has or hasn't worked for them, or my background with traditional financing that I may, and I've had clients come to me before and say, I want to work with you, and I'm like, you know what, you're a great fit for a bank, for a traditional bank, and I'll get you connected with somebody who is the right fit, because at the end of the day, you've got to use that experience to help people.
Sure, and that's what you got to look. As a small business owner, I think you do a lot better long term if you can look at in the mirror at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. So you're not just trying to say, okay, I got this deal today, and it wasn't the right deal for them, but at least I made money. Right? Yeah. Those make it hard to sleep at night.
Yeah, and it's not sustainable, and it's just not a good way to do business,
right,
all the way around for morality reasons and just business in general. It's just.
Absolutely. So what other things do we need to know about in order to deal in this type of an environment? As a small business, we don't have a lot of time, but small businesses, what are some of the things that are pitfalls that you're seeing a lot of?
To be honest, I mean, right along the same lines of what we're talking about, the statistic I read just a couple of days ago, 82% of businesses that fail do so because of cash flow problems. So
that's a huge percentage.
Yeah. And 90% of businesses fail within the first year. So 82% of that 90% that are failing is due to cash flow issues. So know what your books look like. Evaluate on a regular basis what that cash flow looks like, both in and out. Consult with experts, whether it's a finance expert or an attorney or a CPA or whomever it may be.
All of the above.
All of the above, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But definitely... And also, and this is a huge advice for entrepreneurs in general, and you touched upon it earlier, know what your weaknesses are, and know when it's time to bring in an expert or hire someone for your board of advisors or whatever the case may be, but know where your weaknesses are and leverage experts whenever you can, whenever necessary.
And the more you get to talk to people, the more you're going to really learn, and that can help your business long term. You might even find that you can have a more enjoyable business when you start outsourcing some of the things. And I know one of the big problems of entrepreneurs, you know, and if you are an entrepreneur, you might want to look in the mirror and see, entrepreneurs know the answer to every question, just ask them.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's just the way it is, and sometimes you can get some great advice because you're worried about saying, I don't know, and most of us don't know everything. If you want more information, or if you want to meet Sara, Foundation Business Financing, name of the company, foundationfinancing.com is the website. We're going to post that on the Ron Siegel radio page. We'll also have this video or the replay available on there as well. And make sure you set that first radio preset button to come back here every day to join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. A big thanks to John, who's engineering us today. And of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. Again, that's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions or to meet any of our guests, call me anytime, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. And remember, make a lot of money, help a lot of people, have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.